And that, class, is why we don't allow Deathworlders in our prestigious Galactic University, Professor Zorbax concluded, his tentacles waving dismissively as he turned off the holographic display. The class of varied alien species chittered, buzzed, and gurgled in agreement, their appendages or whatever passed for them, gesticulating wildly. Little did the good professor know that his smug certainty was about to be shattered like a cheap novelty mug from a Centauri gift shop. Actually, a small voice piped up from the back of the lecture hall. The entire class turned as one, their multiple eyes or sensory organs widening in shock. There, standing awkwardly and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, was a human, an honest-to-govornak human. Professor Zorbax's eye stalks nearly popped out of his head. Great galaxies. How did you get in here? He sputtered, his usual composure evaporating faster than water on a Mercurian beach day. The human, let's call him Dave, because every other human in these stories seems to be named Dave, cleared his throat. Well, sir, I applied. Like everyone else. He paused, then added with a hint of snark. I even filled out the forms in triplicate. It took me 3 Earth weeks just to figure out how to pronounce half the questions. The class erupted into a cacophony of shocked exclamations, ranging from high-pitched squeals to low, rumbling growls. Professor Zorbax's face cycled through several interesting shades of purple before settling on a sickly mono. This is preposterous, he bellowed, his voice cracking like a pubescent Voltroxian. Humans can't possibly survive our rigorous academic environment. Why, the gravitational fluctuations alone in our zero quantum physics lab would liquefy your organs. Dave shrugged, a quintessentially human gesture that sent ripples of confusion through the alien students, and me not so different from the gravitron at our county fair, though I'll admit, your cafeteria food is a bit more challenging. A Chersonian student near the front raised a gelatinous pseudopod. But the atmospheric composition in our xenobiology lab, it's toxic to most carbon-based life forms. Dave grinned, his teeth glinting in a way that made several students instinctively activate their defensive shields. Oh, you mean that mint-scented sauna? Reminds me of my grandma's bathroom? Very relaxing, actually. Professor Zorbax's left eye began to twitch uncontrollably. This is impossible. Inconceivable. Utterly. Hilarious? Dave supplied helpfully. The professor's tentacles writhed in agitation. No. Not hilarious, dangerous. We must remove this human immediately before he aces all your classes and ruins the grading curve. Dave suggested, his expression the very picture of innocence. A Blorxian student in the front row let out a sound that might have been a laugh, if laughing didn't cause spontaneous combustion in their species. I like this human. He's got, what do they call it, spunk? Chutzpah. Dave corrected with a wink. Professor Zorbax slammed all 4 of his appendages onto his hover podium. Enough. This is a serious academic institution, not some Deathworld comedy club. Dave raised an eyebrow. Wait, you guys have comedy clubs. And here I thought this whole no humans allowed thing was the punchline. The class erupted into a mixture of laughter, gasps, and what sounded suspiciously like mating calls from the Andromeda Sector students. That's it. Professor Zorbax shrieked, his voice reaching a pitch that shattered several crystalline life forms in the front row. If you think you're so capable, human, let's see how you handle our most challenging classroom scenario. Dave's eyes lit up with a mix of excitement and something that, if the aliens knew humans better, they might have recognized as the dangerous glint of someone about to do something incredibly stupid and incredibly awesome. Bring it on, Prof. I didn't come to Galactic U to learn macrame. The professor's tentacles twisted into what passed for a sinister grin in his species. Very well. Follow me, class. It's time for a little field trip. As the assorted alien students filed out of the lecture hall, a mixture of anticipation and dread palpable in the air, Dave found himself walking alongside the Blorxian who had almost combusted earlier. You know, the Blorxian burbled, its gelatinous form quivering with what might have been excitement. I've always been fascinated by Deathworlders. Is it true that you humans voluntarily ingest neurotoxins for pleasure? Dave chuckled. Oh, you mean coffee? Yeah, that's just breakfast for us. Wait till you hear about our spicy food challenges. The Blorxian's entire body paled to a translucent white. Spicy food challenges? Oh yeah, Dave grinned, warming to his subject. We have these peppers, right? Some are so hot they can literally burn holes in your stomach lining, and we eat them. For fun. A nearby Certhonian, who had been eavesdropping, let out a horrified screech. But why? Dave shrugged. Same reason we climb mountains, I guess. Because they're there, and because it's fun to see that look on your face. So the Certhonian's face tentacles curled in on themselves in confusion and what might have been respect. As they approached a heavily fortified door at the end of a long, ominously lit corridor, Professor Zorbax turned to address the group. His eye stalks were twitching with barely contained glee. "Students and human," he said, spitting out the last word like it was a particularly disgusting bit of Zarblat curry. "Welcome to the Omega Scenario Chamber. This room can simulate the most extreme and deadly conditions found anywhere in the known universe. It's where we separate the quantum physicists from the quantum quanters." Dave peered at the door with interest. "Neat. Does it do Earth? I'm feeling a bit homesick." The professor ignored him, continuing his speech with the fervor of someone who had practiced it many times in front of a mirror, or whatever reflective surfaces species used. "Inside, you will face challenges that will test your physical endurance, mental acuity, and species-specific abilities to their absolute limits. Many have entered, few have graduated." "Sounds like my high school prom," Dave muttered. A Voltroxian student raised a crackling energy appendage. "Professor, is this safe?" Zorbax's eye stalk swiveled to fix the student with a withering glare. "Safe? Of course it's not safe. This is Galactic University, not some backwater community college on a Class M planet." Dave leaned over to the Blorxian, whispering, 10 credits says he's talking about Earth." The professor's tentacles danced over a complex control panel, inputting a series of commands. "I've set the chamber to its most lethal configuration. Random gravitational fluctuations, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperature variations, and even a simulated black hole." The alien students gasped in unison. Dave, meanwhile, looked like a kid on Christmas morning. "A black hole?" he exclaimed. "Cool. I've always wanted to see one up close. Well, not too close. I've seen Interstellar." Professor Zorbax's smug grin returned. "Well, human, since you're so eager, why don't you go first? Show us how a Deathworlder handles the deadliest classroom in the galaxy." Dave cracked his knuckles, a sound that made several nearby aliens flinch. "All right, Prof. Just so you know, if I die in there, my ghost is totally haunting your tenure review." With that, Dave stepped forward as the massive door slid open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. The alien students watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as the human walked into the chamber, whistling what sounded suspiciously like the theme from Indiana Jones. As the door sealed behind Dave, the class crowded around the observation window. Inside the chamber was a swirling maelstrom of chaos. Gravity shifted wildly, causing rocks and debris to float and crash in random patterns. Pockets of different atmospheres visible as colored gases, mixed and separated like oil and water. In one corner, a simulated black hole warped the very fabric of space-time. "He'll be atomized in seconds," Professor Zorbax declared confidently. But as the seconds ticked by, something unexpected happened. Dave wasn't atomized. In fact, he seemed to be enjoying himself. The class watched in awe as the human navigated the chaotic environment with surprising grace. When the gravity shifted, Dave used it to propel himself across the chamber, narrowly avoiding flying debris. He ducked into pockets of breathable atmosphere, taking deep breaths before plunging back into the toxic zones. "Is he swimming through the air?" a Sarthonian student asked incredulously. Indeed, Dave was using the variable gravity fields to swim through the chamber, using techniques that looked suspiciously like those employed by astronauts on spacewalks. As he approached the simulated black hole, the class held their breath, or whatever passed for breath in their species. Surely this would be the end of the foolhardy human, but Dave had other plans. Just as the black hole's gravitational pull became irresistible, he grabbed a piece of floating debris and used it as a makeshift shield, riding the gravitational waves like a cosmic surfer. "Kawabunga, dudes." His voice crackled over the chamber's comm system. Professor Zorbax's jaw, or the closest approximation thereof, dropped. This is impossible." Dave's voice came through again, slightly strained but undeniably amused. "Hey, Prof, quick question. Is this black hole supposed to be spinning? Because if it is, I think I just found a way to use the ergosphere to slingshot myself across the room. Neat, huh?" The alien students erupted into excited chatter. A Voltroxian sparked in amazement. "He's using the black hole's rotation to gain velocity. That's brilliant." Professor Zorbax's tentacles were now tied in literal knots. But how? How can a mere human possibly survive?" Dave's voice interrupted. "Well, for starters, this gravity's got nothing on the roller coasters back home. As for the atmosphere, there was a pause, followed by what sounded suspiciously like a burp. Sorry about that. Anyway, the toxic stuff's not great, but it's still better than the air quality in Los Angeles." The Blorxian student bubbled excitedly. "Professor, look, he's approaching the temperature sphere zone." Indeed, Dave was now navigating an area where the temperature fluctuated wildly between near absolute zero and the surface temperature of a star. The class watched, entranced, as the human skin frosted over, then immediately began to sweat. "Who?" Dave's voice crackled. "Talk about hot and cold running water. This is better than that Finnish sauna I tried last summer, though I could use a cold beer right about now." Professor Zorbax was practically vibrating with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "This is preposterous. No single species should be able to withstand such extreme conditions." Dave's laughter echoed through the calm. "Oh, come on, Prof. Go prop into for been to Florida. This is just like a typical Tuesday in July. Minus the alligators, of course." As the simulation continued, Dave not only survived but seemed to thrive in the chaotic environment. He used the extreme conditions to his advantage, freezing toxic gases to create temporary bridges using heat differentials to generate improvised jet streams, and even calculating the precise moments to use the black hole's gravitational lensing effect to spot hidden dangers. The alien students were beside themselves with excitement. They had never seen anything like this before. Charsarthonian was furiously taking notes, its tentacles a blur of motion. A group of Voltroxians had formed an impromptu cheering section, their electrical discharges creating a dazzling light show. After what seemed like an eternity, but was actually only about 30 Earth minutes, the chamber's systems began to power down. The door slid open with a hiss, and out stepped Dave, looking slightly disheveled but very much alive. "Woo," he exclaimed, running a hand through his sweat-soaked hair. "That was a rush. Do you guys rent that thing out for parties? Because let me tell you, it would make one hell of a haunted house come Halloween." The class erupted into cheers, tentacles waving, pseudopods undulating, and energy fields crackling with excitement. Several students rushed forward, peppering Dave with questions. "How did you calculate the black hole's event horizon so quickly? What technique did you use to neutralize the toxic gases? Can you teach us that swimming motion you did in variable gravity?" Dave grinned, clearly enjoying the attention. "Hua, one at a time. Tell you what, why don't we grab some lunch, and I'll explain everything. Fair warning though, I might need someone to translate the menu. Last time I tried ordering on my own, I'm pretty sure I accidentally proposed marriage to the cafeteria lady." As the excited students began to file out, chattering animatedly about what they had just witnessed, Professor Zorbax remained rooted to the spot, his eye stalks drooping in defeat. Dave approached him, a hint of concern in his voice. "Hey, Prof, you okay? You're looking a little, well, I want to say green around the gills, but I'm not sure if that idiom translates." The professor's tentacles writhed weakly. I don't understand. How could a human possibly?" Dave's expression softened. "Look, Professor, I get it. Humans are weird. We come from a planet that's basically trying to kill us 24/7, so we've had to adapt. A lot. But here's the thing, we're not just survivors, we're explorers, inventors, and yeah, sometimes we're a little crazy. But that's what makes us human." He paused, then added with a grin, "Plus, growing up watching sci-fi movies gives you a pretty good idea of how to handle a black hole." Professor Zorbax's eye stalks perked up slightly. "Sci-fi. Oh man," Dave laughed. "Have I got some movies to show you? But first, how about we update that no Deathworlders policy? Because let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've seen a human's reaction to your quantum physics exam. Talk about mind-bending." As they walked out of the chamber, Dave regaling the professor with tales of Earth's strangest survival stories. A new era understanding began to dawn at Galactic University. The day the Deathworlder not only survived but thrived in the Deadliest classroom would go down in galactic history. And somewhere, in the depths of space, the spirit of humanity's adventurous nature smiled. The galaxy wasn't ready for humans, but then again, humans were never ones to wait for an invitation. They were here, they were weird, and they were ready to turn the universe upside down, sometimes literally, if the gravity allowed for it. As for Dave, well, he had a quantum physics exam to study for, a black hole to surf, and a whole galaxy of minds to blow. Just another day in the life of a human at Galactic U. The end, or perhaps just the beginning of humanity's grand adventure among the stars. Epilogue, 1 Galactic Standard Year later. The annual Galactic University Open House was in full swing, with prospective students from across the cosmos flocking to see what the prestigious institution had to offer. But this year was different. This year there was a new exhibit that was drawing more attention than the Zero Quantum Computer Lab or even the famous 5-dimensional cafeteria. "Step right up, folks." Dave's voice boomed across the atrium, a mixture of carnival barker and excited science teacher. "So welcome to the Human Survival Challenge. Think you've got what it takes to handle a day on Earth? Come test your mettle against a death world." A crowd of alien students gathered around a large circular platform. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing scenes that would be mundane to any human but seemed to alternately terrify and fascinate the gathered extraterrestrials. Is that precipitation made of dihydrogen monoxide? A Sartonian student gasped, its tendrils curling in horror at the sight of rain. Dave grinned. We just call it rain back home. Don't worry, it won't dissolve you probably. A Voltroxian sparked nervously. And that can't be a real image of your solar radiation levels, can it? Oh, that's just a sunny day at the beach, Dave chuckled. Wait till you see what a sunburn looks like. Talk about your extreme sports. Professor Zorbax, looking both exasperated and grudgingly impressed, floated up to Dave on his hover platform. Mr. Dave, while I admit that your unique perspective has brought some interesting changes to our curriculum, don't you think this is a bit much? Dave's eyes twinkled with mischief. Come on, Prof. Where's your sense of adventure? Besides, I thought you'd appreciate the educational value. After all, what better way to understand Deathworlders than to walk a mile in our gravity-tying shoes? But Professor's eye-stalk swiveled towards the eager crowd of students. I suppose there is some merit to experiential learning, he admitted reluctantly. That's the spirit. Dave clapped the professor on what he hoped was a shoulder. Now who wants to try their tentacles at a human picnic? We've got ant-infested blankets, the constant threat of sunburn, and potato salad that's been sitting out just a little too long. It's the full Earth experience. A brave Blorxian student oozed forward. I volunteer. The crowd cheered as the Blogjan was outfitted with a specially designed environmental suit that would simulate Earth conditions. As the student stepped onto the platform, holographic ants began to march across their gelatinous form. Oh my Xor, the Blorxian exclaimed. They're everywhere. How do humans tolerate this? Dave leaned in, Stega whispering to the crowd. The secret is to pretend they're not there. That, or invest in really good insect repellent. As the demonstration continued, more students volunteered to face the horrors of Earth. A Voltroxian tried to navigate a simulated thunderstorm, its electrical field going haywire with each lightning strike. A group of Sartonians attempted to play volleyball, their tentacles tangling in comical knots as they struggled against Earth's gravity. Throughout it all, Dave provided commentary that was equal parts informative and hilarious. And here we see the age-old human tradition of trying to apply sunscreen to your own back. It's part contortionism, part abstract art. Even Professor Zorbax found himself chuckling at the students' antics. I must admit, Mr. Dave, this is quite illuminating. Though I'm still not sure I understand the purpose of this barbecue ritual. Deliberately burning perfectly good nutrients seems counterproductive. Dave slung an arm around the professor's gelatinous shoulders. Ah, but that's the beauty of it, Prof. It's not about efficiency. It's about bringing people together, sharing stories, and occasionally setting your eyebrows on fire when you get too close to the grill. As the day wore on, the human survival challenge became the talk of the open house. Students from across the galaxy lined up to test their mettle against Earth's many dangers, from trying to open a stubborn jar lid in Earth gravity to navigating a simulated rush-hour traffic jam. But it wasn't just about the challenges. With each simulation, the alien students began to understand a little more about what it meant to be human. They saw the resilience, the adaptability, and yes, the sheer stubborn determination that allowed humanity to not just survive, but thrive on their death world. As the event wound down, Dave found himself surrounded by a group of awestruck students. Is it true that humans deliberately jump out of perfectly functional aircraft? A wide-eyed Sarthonian asked. Dave grinned. Skydiving. Oh yeah, it's a blast. Nothing like free-falling through the atmosphere to get your blood pumping. A Voltroxian crackled with curiosity. And you willingly ingest capsaicin compounds for enjoyment? Nent, you bet. There's nothing quite like the burn of a good hot sauce. Clears the sinuses and puts hair on your chest, metaphorically speaking, of course. Professor Zorbax hovered over, his eye-stalks betraying a mix of exasperation and newfound respect. Mr. Dave, I must say, today has been most educational. Perhaps we've been too hasty in our judgment of Deathworlders. Dave's expression softened. That's all we've ever wanted, Prof. A chance to show that we're more than just the planet we come from. Sure, Earth has shaped us, but it's our curiosity, our drive to explore and understand, that really makes us who we are. The professor's tentacles twisted in what Dave had come to recognize as a smile. Indeed, and perhaps there is something to be said for your human tenacity. After all, any species that can turn the constant threat of destruction into a reason for celebration is certainly worthy of study. And friendship? Dave asked, extending a hand. Professor Zorbax regarded the gesture for a moment before extending a tentacle to shake. Yes, Mr. Dave. And friendship. As the sun set on Galactic University, or rather as the binary star system entered its dormant phase, a new chapter was beginning. The day's events had done more than just entertain. They had bridged a gap between worlds, fostered understanding, and opened up a universe of possibilities. Students left the human survival challenge with a newfound appreciation for the species they had once dismissed as too fragile for galactic society. Many were already making plans to visit Earth, eager to experience the death world for themselves, with proper safety precautions, of course. And Dave? Well, he had a whole new batch of interstellar exchange students to prepare for their first Earth semester. He couldn't wait to introduce them to the joys of all-night study sessions fueled by coffee and pizza, the thrill of narrowly making it to class before the professor arrived, and the uniquely human experience of trying to do laundry for the first time without turning everything pink. As he watched the last of the students leave, chattering excitedly about their brush with Deathworld Dynamax, Dave couldn't help but smile. The galaxy might not have been ready for humans, but humans had always been ready for the galaxy. And now, finally, the two were starting to meet in the middle. Who knew? Maybe next year's open house would feature a human exchange program to some of the more interesting planets in the galaxy. After all, if there's one thing humans love more than a challenge, it's the opportunity to explore the unknown. And so, as the stars twinkled in the alien sky, the spirit of human adventure burned brighter than ever, ready to take on whatever the cosmos had to offer, one impossibly survived scenario at a time. The end, but really just the beginning of a whole new galactic adventure.